I worked at the same company for just over 20 years. Same building, same parking spot, same coffee mug that said, "World's Okayest Employee." I wasn't flashy. I didn't job hop. I showed up early, stayed late when needed, trained new hires, fixed problems no one else wanted to deal with, and never once asked for special treatment. I thought loyalty still meant something. Turns out, I was wrong. I was 58 when it happened. They called me into a meeting on a Tuesday afternoon. No warning. No performance review issues. Just an email that said, "Quick touch base. HR will join." That's when I knew. My boss, let's call him Mark, wouldn't look me in the eye. HR smiled the way people do when they're about to ruin your life but want to feel polite about it. They told me the company was moving in a new direction. They said my role was being eliminated. They said it wasn't personal. I sat there stunned, listening to words I'd heard happen to other people, but never imagined would happen to me. 20 years, gone in 10 minutes. They gave me a severance package. Not terrible, but not generous either. Mark shook my hand and said, "I really appreciate everything you've done here." That was it. I cleaned out my desk while people avoided eye contact. A few whispered, "I'm sorry." Most said nothing. I went home early that day and just sat in my car in the driveway for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. I wasn't just losing a job. I was losing my routine, my identity, my sense of being useful. And at my age, starting over felt terrifying. Over the next few weeks, I found out the truth. They didn't eliminate my role. They gave it to a guy in his early 30s. Cheaper salary, fewer benefits, less experience. I wasn't too old officially, just too expensive. I tried not to be bitter. I updated my resume, applied for jobs, dealt with the quiet panic that creeps in at 3 a.m. when you start doing math in your head about retirement. Then, about 3 months later, my phone rang. It was Mark. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. He sounded uncomfortable. He asked how I was doing. I gave a polite, short answer. Then he got to the point. The company was having problems, big ones. The systems I had built and maintained for years, they were failing. The documentation I'd created, but no one ever bothered to read. Turns out it mattered. The young guy who replaced me? Nice enough, apparently, but overwhelmed and in way over his head. Mark cleared his throat and said, "We were hoping you could come in as a consultant. Just temporarily. Help us stabilize things." I didn't say anything right away. He rushed to add, "We'd pay you, of course." I asked one question. What happened to moving in a new direction? Silence. Then he admitted deadlines were being missed. Clients were unhappy. Upper management was angry. They needed me. Here's the thing. I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. So I told him I'd think about it. That night, I talked it over with my spouse. We didn't need the money desperately, but it wouldn't hurt. More than that, I wanted to prove to myself that I still mattered. The next day, I called Mark back. I said I was open to consulting under a few conditions. First, my rate would be triple my old hourly pay. Second, I'd work remotely on my schedule. Third, no training my replacement. I would fix problems, not babysit. Long pause. Then Mark said, "I'll have to get approval." I said, "That's fine. Let me know." An hour later, he called back. Approved. I won't lie. There was a quiet satisfaction in that moment. Not smugness, just validation. They didn't fire me because I wasn't valuable. They fired me because they underestimated me. I worked with them for about 4 months. I fixed what was broken. I documented everything properly. I answered questions when I felt like it. People who barely acknowledged me before suddenly treated me like an expert. Mark was polite, careful, almost deferential. At the end of the contract, he asked if I'd consider coming back full-time. I said no, not angrily, not dramatically, just no. I told him I appreciated the offer, But I'd learned something important during my time away. My loyalty had never been reciprocated, and I wasn't interested in giving more years of my life to a place that only valued me when things went wrong. I ended up finding a part-time role elsewhere, not as stressful, with people who actually thanked me for my experience. I sleep better now. Here's what I learned, and what I wish I'd known sooner. Loyalty to a company doesn't guarantee loyalty back. Experience matters, but only if you recognize your own worth. And sometimes the best revenge isn't anger or lawsuits or speeches. It's calmly walking away, knowing they finally realized what they lost, and knowing you no longer need their approval.